Hey guys, welcome back to the Interceptor. We are here with another Alliance War video. This is going to be Season 55, War Number 9, and AOH has matched up against LOXC. And we have a pretty cool war here. We're going to be using Shocker on my main account for the first time ever. It is actually the debut of my rank 3 Shocker, and not only is he rank 3, I also fed him 160 Sig Stones, so he is now Sig 200. Which means that whenever I throw my first L1 of the fight, it costs 0 power. And yeah, I really like Shocker. He's very cool. He's been one of my favorite champions for a long time, and the only reason I didn't have him at rank 3 already was because he was punching up and taking rank 3s while he was at rank 2, and the fights were still very easy, but I had Sig Stones expiring. I thought he's a really good investment, especially because we're only at rank 3s right now, and we have to get all the way to rank 6 ascended 6 stars before we see, or 7 stars before we see 8 stars. So yeah, I thought that was a good decision, and I'm pretty sure we have 3 fights with Shocker this war, 3 fights with Stealthy, so pretty nice balance. So starting up, we have this Sinister, very easy path fight, and you're going to see right here when I throw the L1, it's going to cost me 0 power, which is just super cool. I really love that ability. And we're actually just going to go straight into an L2, because Shocker does so much damage that we don't need a second L2. Second L1. Now, for the next 2 Shocker fights, they are both against rank 3 7 stars. However, I am going to use a second L1 in those fights. In both cases, it was not necessary. In one of the fights, I did it just to guarantee the special killed, and in the second, I used the special to get out of a bad situation. So, you'll see what happens there. First off, we have this Manthing on path 8, and I have taken this node before. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm yawning all of a sudden. It's like I've been awake for 4 hours. But yeah, we are going to decide to play this fight slow, just because I know that this node can mess with your defensive ability accuracy when the defender has buffs. So we're just going to play this slow because this war is not going to come down to time. I mean, I didn't know that at the time. I was just trying my best to not die, and this was the safest way I saw to play. But if I had been in a rush and time had mattered at the time I was taking the fight, then I obviously would have played this a little bit faster. I would have been countering L1s, and I would have been letting him get buffs, because he does get passive Furies if he has 3 or more buffs. Luckily, this Manthing is unduped, which means that he does not gain buffs when he throws specials, but there's no point in this fight that I let him get to the 3 buffs anyways, so it didn't do anything. But yeah, it did just slow this fight down a little bit. Totally not necessary, but I don't know. It's a tactic fight. Not really much to say. Whenever we do get nullified, first off, he's not going to be gaining power because of our withers, but also I'm going to be healing from the poison because it's going to be dealing no damage. So, pretty straightforward fight. I think, yeah, here we're going to let the buff fall off, and he's going to go down in about 30 seconds. Manthing is not the greatest not the greatest matchup in the world to Stealthy unless you need the matchup for something specific. For example, it's a really good matchup on Path 5, Section 1, the first node, because you can pause the Ebb and Flow Fury indefinitely, and it's also a really good matchup on Node 38, although there's an argument to be made that there's some better counters there, namely Titania, although she's always banned. So of the champions that are not always banned, I would argue Stealthy is probably the best, but there's some people that would disagree with me there. But we have this Chavez on one of the regen nodes, and she's really only here to split the path. And I mean, she succeeded in that, it just didn't end up meaning anything. Very easy matchup. one of the weakest tactic defenders because Wither actually removes her dimensions. Like in her base kit, she has a personal weakness to Wither. So whether it's Wither from this tactic or just other champions Wither debuffs, I think, for example, Spidey 2099 has a Wither debuff that's personal. I don't remember how he gets it, but I'm pretty sure he does. And yeah, they just remove her stuff, so really any tactic champion can take her on any node without worrying about anything. So, pretty straightforward fight, and we are going to be going into Onslaught here. With Shocker, this is Buffet, and I think I'm going to let him throw 2 L1s before I go for the kill. But we're going to throw on an SP1 boost here, and then we're going to use one final SP1 boost that is going to be for our final fight this war later. But this one's going to last us this fight and the next fight. So, yeah, 2 L1s, do a combo into our first L1. We're already at 35 charges, and then right here we're just going to throw a second one. Just to guarantee that the L2 kills. Again, totally unnecessary. Also, in this fight, I'm not really sure why I let him throw a special, because I definitely could have played that in a way where he never got to throw a single special the whole fight. But, I don't know, maybe I'm just dumb. There I went for an intercept, and here, he's actually at 100%. But this kind of just speaks to how crazy Shocker's damage is, because we don't even have our full ramp. We have about an 80% ramp. We threw this L2 when he was at 100%, and it was overkill by probably 60 to 70k. So that's pretty cool that Shocker just deletes defenders like that. Very fun fight. Really, really like using Shocker. And we'll go to our next fight here. This is going to be Node 38 Sentinel with Stealth Suit Spidey. Stealthy's last fight of the war. And normally, this is a pretty fast fight. Or not fast, but the last time I took this node, this matchup, this fight went a lot faster than it ends up going this time. And I'm not really sure why there was such a big difference. But I remember this fight ends up being like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And the last time I took this fight, it was under 2 minutes. So I'm not really sure what made just that massive difference in the fight time. I think it was probably how passive the AI was. And maybe I just didn't get as many crits on my basics as I did last time. But yeah, there is quite a lot of time wasted in this fight, simply from Sentinel not throwing special attacks. So that definitely contributed, but just not the fastest fight in the world. Against Sentinel with Stealthy, I prefer to only bait L1s. Next war, I have a Sentinel on node 49, so the stun reflection and brute force node with Stealthy. There, my striker got full crits. I'm wondering if maybe the crits from the striker can't be prevented by the analysis charges, because it can't be a coincidence that every single hit of that striker was a crit. But I don't know. I suspect that maybe strikers don't have their damage reduced, because I know in raids, for example, the damage of the striker can't be increased. Like whenever you're using hacks to increase your attack rating, your strikers don't benefit from that increase. So it might be something similar here, where the relics just ignore personal champs, crit resistance, and armor rating. But that's the only theory I can think of. But yeah, so this fight's going to be done in about 20 seconds. Have to make sure we keep up those withers whenever these armor ups expire, because they do give Sentinel a burst of power, and the point of that is that those 3 armor ups send him to his L3, and if Sentinel uses his L3 once per fight, he can regen up to 100%. Like, he will just fully go, even in war as a defender, from 1% to 100% if he throws his L3. And like I said, it can only happen once in the fight, but you don't want that happening, obviously. And then here the striker kills. And then there again, The only 2 times I threw my striker, I got full crits. The first time I got it on every single hit, and then the second time I threw my striker, I got it on the first 2 hits. And then after that, the fight was over. So I think it actually does ignore crit resistance, but I don't know. I'm just speculating based on that fight alone. Here we have Dazzler. I don't remember who we originally assigned to this fight, but we assigned Prowler to this fight, which, to be fair, would have been completely fine. However, in order to swap one of our Section 1 paths, because someone had a problem with one of their fights, in order to swap that around, we actually had to free up a team slot for that person. And then my officer said, well, you're already bringing Shocker. There I just countered the L1 a bit early, which is the reason I end up having to throw that L1. But yeah, we very clearly would have killed with just one L1. As you can see, this L2 is going to be a lot of overkill. But yeah, we had to make that swap to free up a team member. I already had Shocker on the team. My officer asked. I said I could. Also, on this fight, you need to be careful that you throw your heavy attack before the root comes, or you will just lose all your charges and not even deal any damage. And then that was, I believe that was it. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for my main account. So let's get over to my alt account. No super hard fights on my main, but a couple interesting fights, and obviously the debut of my rank 3 Shocker. But today we are going to have a pretty dangerous, pretty scary war on my alt account where I get in really bad situations in 3 separate fights and I have to end up clutching the fights. So that was definitely interesting. But we have the team of Luke Cage, Mantis, and Wags. I do have a rank 3 7-star Mantis. However, I just haven't needed to use it yet this season, and this war is going to end up being the first time I had to do so. And we have 2 Mantis fights, both of which are very scary. This bishop here was not anything special. I end up taking it with Luke, and due to the tactic, you can just bait L1 and soak up the incinerate damage, and you're not going to take any damage because of decay, as long as you have some exhaustions or other debuffs up, because obviously Bishop is not a tactic defender, but it's still going to be pretty simple. Throw on our L1 boost. I'm throwing on the L1 boost mostly for the second fight here. However, in this fight, if I'm able to get to L2, my concussion will prevent him from building any prowess, so there's also a benefit for this fight. But yeah, we don't really have to worry much about the regeneration because it is going to get reduced by despair. However, when we have the opportunity, we are going to let it expire because it's kind of a perfect and convenient time right now while we have to bait the L1 anyways. But yeah, our L2 does some pretty good damage, and I think we're actually just going to end the fight before he has the chance to throw another special. And yeah, you can see we're reducing the healing by so much that we can essentially just ignore it and keep hitting him, and we'll be able to outdamage it very, very easily. So this is one of the fights that gets very scary. This is a Longshot, and what's the node here? It's the unblockable node and the shrug off node. This is the second time this season I'm taking this fight with Luke Cage, and the first time it actually went really well. In this fight, I'm just going to get some not so great AI that is just simply put unwilling to like throw special at a convenient time. Right there, in the moment, I countered and I was so confident that I got it in the correct time, but I guess it just didn't really work out. And then there I tried to throw my L1 into him and it didn't work out, but we are going to actually clutch up and get an L1 here. If we had not been able to throw that special one, then we would not have been able to... What am I doing? Oh yeah, here he's going to go unstoppable, so we're going to dash back. We're going to dash back. He's going to go unstoppable. He's going to go unstoppable again. So at this point, I'm panicking. I'm like, please. And then, thank God, He gives me the opportunity to get out of the hole, get out of the corner. Because if you don't know the way that Longshot interacts with this tactic, when a buff expires, there's a certain percentage chance for him to go unstoppable. Because of Longshot's in his personal increased ability accuracy, the chance for him to go unstoppable on buffs expiring is 100% every single time. It is always going to trigger. So you have to send a tactic champion, and you have to send someone that is able to control slow if you're going to be getting buffs on yourself. And with the unblockable on this node, you obviously have to be getting buffs on yourself. So we did manage to save that fight due to some clutch play in the corner and also Longshot's AI behaving, but definitely got very sketchy. And the next fight is not going to really get much better. It's also going to be pretty sketchy. This Photon with Mantis. And if you don't know the way that Photon on this node works, Photon on this node has increased defensive ability accuracy, which means that my Tranquilize is not going to shut down Photon's debuffs. I'm still going to get full debuffs on me, and I'm still going to get... and she's still going to build her charges, which means that no matter how I play, she is going to go into pure light form. So we are trying to do our ramp, we are trying to finish our light combos, and here we're going to end with a light attack. Oh no, we're actually going to bait the special first, that's fine. Here we're going to end with a light attack so that we can hit into the block a few times, get our ramp, and now we're just going to bait an L1, and after that we are going to throw the L2. But as you can see, I'm already at 17 charges, which means that knocking down here is going to trigger pure light. And unfortunately my L2 did push to L1, so we get comboed, and then I block in hopes that she'll throw a heavy attack, and then I special intercept her to finish the fight off. That could have gotten very sketchy if she was fully unblockable and I can't dex the specials because of pure light form. There would have been a chance that I actually died there. So here we're going to heal up while the player that I was splitting path 4 with took down Dust with Lady Deathstrike, and we will go to our minis for this war. So I did end up clearing first on my main, on my alt, because as you can see, the fights on my main are still up. The Sentinel and the Dazzler are still up, but Lady Deathstrike on this node, this one is actually going to go a lot differently from last time, and it's partly because I get hit a little bit, and it's partly because the AI just doesn't really cooperate. What you want to do on this fight is you want to just hit your opponent with heavy attacks and then back off before they get a regen buff. Here, unfortunately, I'm not doing that so well, so we are going to let the regens fall off. I was trying in this fight to counter L1s with the heavy. The timing is really tough. It's harder than you'd think, so I definitely don't recommend it. But as you can see, she is firmly at 100% health here and stacking regens, so I really just need to do something to get out of this really bad situation. If you are able to just parry heavy, you are very easily able to outdamage the healing she gets from willpower, assuming she does not have any active regenerations. But we're not doing that so well, and unfortunately we did make the mistake of throwing an L2, which I knew, I was fully aware it was not going to do any damage. She was going to regen it all back. But I was doing it to get a concussion up. I don't really know why I needed a concussion up in a matchup like this, but whatever. And at this point, we're going to go for an L3 so that we can get a trauma up so that our basic hits and heavies and all that stuff does basically everything, does more damage. But we decide to eat an L1 there just for fun. And I think here we're going to go for a heavy attack. I was waiting for the regen to go away, and this L3 is going to inflict a trauma. So the fight is going to go down, but just a really poor start of the fight. Got trapped in my own corner, didn't play it super well. Yeah, just not the greatest greatest fight by me. But when we have all these exhaustions up and we are reversing the power gain and we don't have to deal with her specials all the time, it does make the fight a lot easier to out damage and deal with the healing. So luckily that went well, and we are going to go up to our last fight of, our second last fight of the war. We have this one and then one more, because we have 3 minis, because I only had 3 path fights this war. So we do have this Quicksilver on Hazard Shift. There was another player who was originally assigned this fight with Crossbones, and I was going to take Werewolf by Night, but we ended up swapping the plan so that another Luke Cage took Werewolf by Night and I took this Quicksilver, mostly because I needed to move at the same time as Nitro, the officer for my battle group, and it would have been very difficult in the morning when I had 2 classes during war and I wouldn't have been around that much until war was over. It would have been very difficult for me, him, and another guy to all move together, which we would have had to do. So we made the decision to swap, because that guy was already asleep. That's pretty important, I should have said that. That guy was already asleep, so he could not have moved with us. And yeah, we made the swap. I took this Quicksilver. Ends up going really, really well. It's actually a very good matchup because you can deal with the evade. You can deal with the Hazard Shift. You're obviously not taking damage from Hazard Shift to begin with. Even without Tactic, this matchup is totally doable. You just need an Odin pre-fight, but very, very doable. Have some Whiplash on us. Honestly, I don't even know if Whiplash gets dealt with by the Tactic, but we don't end up activating it in this fight, so it doesn't end up mattering. Here we throw an L2 into the block just for fun, and yeah, we didn't really do a great job of keeping our debuffs up in this fight, but luckily, because we're immune to one of the 2 Hazard Shifts, that's not really that big of a deal. It doesn't really affect the fight that much. And then here the fight is going to go down in what, like a minute 20, something like that, minute 23. So came out of that fight with full health, and it was Luke's last fight anyway, so it doesn't matter, but still pretty nice. And now we'll go to a fight I was absolutely terrified to take, and that is going to be Count Nefaria on the power gain and unblockable L2 node with Mantis. And the reason I was terrified is because no matter how big I boost, my first L2 is not going to kill. I know it's not, because of the health pool, it's not going to kill. So like, we have our skill boost on. I'm going to put a skill power back boost on. Now, this is the first war after the nerf, as I believe I said earlier. So the power back is only going to give me 1 bar of power back, but that's actually going to end up being enough in this fight. So you'll see what happens. Count Nefaria doesn't really have that many annoying defensive abilities. You just have to worry about his personal power gain that's going to get increased by the node. And then you want to ramp Mantis normally, and here we are going to do a light ending combo to get our last few charges, and then we're going to bait out the L1 and just block it all, because it doesn't actually do anything other than give him a little extra power. So I'm trying to let him throw another one, and he doesn't want to throw it, so I said, okay, fine, I'll throw my first L2, and unfortunately the L2 is going to push him to an L2. However, what we are going to do is we are going to finish this combo with a light ender. We are going to get a half ramp, so only to 8 charges actually, and then we are going to end the fight with a half ramped L2, which is way overkill for how much health he had left. But I mean, there was technically a chance he could have thrown an unblockable L2 even though he had Intimidate up, but even with full crits, it definitely wouldn't have killed me. It probably would have done about 60% of my health with full crits. So yeah, we will take that. And my battle group actually ended up playing this war very well. We only had 1 death. Actually, we didn't even have a single death. We had a timeout. So yeah, we ended up losing our war 5-3. It was 3-3 with about 20 fights left per alliance, and we were down in fight time by I think like 1.5 seconds on average. So we had to go a little bit faster if we wanted a chance to win. But unfortunately, we did end up dying, and they didn't end up dying. So even had we not died again, we still would have lost the war on the tiebreaker 3-3. So ultimately, those deaths at the end for whoever that player was didn't end up mattering. But unfortunately, with that loss, our hopes of making Masters are now gone. Had we ended these last 3 wars 3-0 and ended with a 6-5 record, we would have had a chance at Masters, and it would have come down to attack bonus and who matches who in the final war. But unfortunately, because we lose, we're not going to have that chance, and we are going to be in Plat 1 this season. But hopefully we can bounce back next season and play a lot better. So that is going to be it for this video. We'll just go over the stats. Like I said, we did end up losing this war, so our record is now 3-6. My death total is at 3 still, 2 on my main, 1 on my alt, and my PSR is at 112 out of 115 fights soloed, or 97%. My main is at 53 out of 55, or 96%, and my alt is at 59 out of 60 fights soloed, or 98%. My overall deathless streak is 50 fights, but I have a 22 deathless streak on my main and a 33 deathless streak on my alt. I know those two don't add up to 50, but I died in back-to-back wars on my different accounts, so I only had a 5 streak going on my alt when I died with my main, which is why the numbers differ by 5. But yeah, that's going to be it. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.